For those of you who have joined us since February of 2018, I'd like to fill you in with a little history. As 2006 began, explorers were scattered across shards in what we called Until Uru. We were waiting for the possibility of a collective home after Prologue had closed in 2004. In February of 2006, the DRC officially opened the MOULa shard. During the year that MOULa was open, explorers swarmed in, creating new events and activities, and feeding the rumor mill that an even more official cavern restoration was underway. We did not have the vast social media networks that we've had in later years, and TeamSpeak was the most available group voice application. Only specialized websites were able to play audio, and even more specialized websites could play video. Still, we managed to spread the word. It was a year of revelry, rivalry, great angst, and a lot of serious nonsense. And, of course, what seemed like endless waiting for the DRC to resume full-scale restoration. What a fun and hectic time that was. The year of 2007 was the year during which Uru Live was again open with the help of the Game Tab benefactors. It was also a year unlike any seen in the cavern thus far. Nearly each month brought us new chapters, new ages, new events, sorrow, controversy, and new stories to tell. Friendships were forged and severed. The community fractured and came back together. We recorded everything we could. We kept chat logs, and we filled albums with images. The Bahro came. Yisha came. Explorers passed away, and the Bahro left. Then DRC activity began to slow, and it slowed even more. Then, in February of 2008, we heard the cavern would be closing again that coming April. Hearing that, we felt as if our world was about to end. Was it true that destruction had indeed come upon us? We wondered this as we began our fall through the chasm. Some thought that this was the end of the story. Others denied that anything was ending. Rather, this was simply another transition in the progress of our community. But many knew. Many knew it was the end of our home. There were even those who spoke of the end of ages. The shock began to wear off during the 2 months from February to April of 2008. Explorers did what they could to prevent the closing of the cavern. We signed petitions to keep the door open. We protested loudly in hopes of the same result. We held parties, games, concerts, and other activities throughout the cavern ages. On the surface, we tried to convince others to join us to show the value in our home. To no avail. We finally had to accept reality. The DRC had depleted their financial resources. And, in spite of Kate's promises, no funding organization actually saw the potential in the ages that both the DRC and explorers knew existed. We understood the reasons. We tried to understand, and we tried to stop it. Sadly, though, we finally prepared for the last day. That fatal day was April 9th of 2008. Explorers met together for one last time. Throughout the day, we gathered in different ages. We met with friends, and we talked. We gathered in the neighborhoods. We sat with 1 or 2 friends, or we met in large crowds. We tried again to talk to the Bahro. Once, occasionally, they listened. We went to the Kalo pub and said goodbye to those whose names were on the memorial. We gathered in the city, in our favorite ages, and the places that were so familiar, where we had frequented so often together. We talked about the organized effort to talk to the Bahro. We still discussed the correct names of our neighborhoods. We remembered averting a fatal disaster. And we recorded as much as we could in voice, in key images, surface screenshots, and in video, as much as we could, before there was no more opportunity to record anymore. Like so many others, I linked to the ages I would miss the most. Edurcamo, Delin, Teledon, Filzerelto, and the beautiful Kavir we had only known for a short time. Those of you who visit Kavir on a regular basis don't understand how short a time we had had with this beautiful age. We were there as much as possible, drinking in the beauty of it. I spent much of the day filling my key with images and my key recorder with videos for a memory book. That night, I met with many explorers in the Watchers Pub where we are now. I knew so many of them, and yet that night I met so many more. The music played and we danced. For me it was difficult, because dancing means joy. But we stood ourselves up. We listened to the music of Denny Jays across the ages, and we laughed, we joked, we danced, we cried, we grieved. And we swore we would remember. Many explorers visited the memorial and their own favorite ages, promising that those that had passed away in the cavern would not be forgotten. Even those who had left us would not be forgotten. The Barro came to visit during those final hours. Twice while I was there, they came to the Watchers Pub and looked at us with their solemn eyes. We wondered whether they knew that we, like them, would leave now en masse. Did they remember their comrade whose body they brought and showed us here in this very place? This place where we now sit. What were they thinking? We wanted to know, if possible, what they were thinking, how they felt then and now. Had they really left voluntarily those many months before, and could they return if they wished? Could we communicate with them just this one time? Alas, at the end of it all, we still could not. And we talked to each other. We talked to some we hadn't talked to for years. Fences were mended, friendships renewed, and new friendships made. It was heartening to see so many familiar faces. It was heartening to see unfamiliar faces too, and sad to hear that some explorers had just begun their journey, only to have it end. We waited together near the end of the day, here in the Watchers Pub, some in their favorite ages, all over the cavern, all over in the ages. Explorers gathered alone or together and waited. So many explorers came back from other worlds for that last day. So many that, like today, we couldn't keep track of them all, and the chat flew by as we talked and we danced. We tried to take note of everyone who was there, everyone who passed through. After a while, it was impossible. and we just talked, related what we were thinking and feeling. And then came the first system message. 15 minutes till server shut down. I thought that I could perhaps delay the shutdown if I just took more key pictures, if I just took more screenshots and more video. If I talked faster, would it happen more slowly? Perhaps it did. Perhaps it didn't. And then the 10-minute message came. Where had that 5 minutes gone? It seemed like only 1 minute ago. It seemed that unlike any other time when we had gathered as friends, we had so much to say, and so little time to say it. We talked and watched as the next message came through. 5 minutes till server shut down. And then the DRC humor that there always is. Another message. There will be cake. And we talked and we talked, and we took even more screenshots and key photos and videos, as if that would again slow the closing. And it did not. 1 minute till server shut down. And then the last message. Goodbye. Time. Untranslated. Network error 5. Network connection failed. Protocol. Auth server. End. And so once again we began to wait. More explorers moved to other worlds, and we waited. Friendships were lost. Explorers were lost. We lost track in those other worlds and on the surface, and still we waited. 4 years passed, and still we waited. More years passed, and we waited. Many sad explorers moved permanently to those other worlds and to the surface. Some explorers tried to recreate their home. They tried their hand at the art of age writing. There were successes, although they used different methods, different materials, different words, different phrases. They had brought the writing traditions with them to those other worlds and to the surface, and so they did their best to adapt those skills as best they could, trying to give us another place to live, where we could be together. But it looked as though the cavern we knew would be lost to us forever, and that we would not remember each other or the Denis history. Talking on the forums kept us informed, but it wasn't the same. We weren't there. And that made all the difference. We began to accept the permanent loss of our home. And don't forget to stop by to donate on your way to the events. The tab is just to the right of the tab that says Forums. I hear the donation box is somewhere in the cleft. Possibly near the windmill. I'm not sure that's true, but it doesn't hurt to check. And while you do, you might think about stopping by and saying hello to Zandy. He loves company.
Sometimes you got to close one door to open another.
Then a message appeared on the DRC forums on February 4th, 2010. It was written by Victor Laxman. He had noticed activity in the cavern. Dr. Kodama answered. Then Marie Sutherland. Then Dr. Watson confirmed it. I had a dream there were explorers down there, so I went to look, Dr. Watson said. And they are there. Shortly thereafter, we all began to flood through the gates. Such excitement! The cavern was once again opened. We had known this kind of excitement before, and so some explorers were wary. Some even scoffed at our Pollyanna happiness. But still, we danced for joy, and so did they. The new MOULa cavern would be renamed MOULa, as it is today. Mist Online, Uru live again. Some days later, the DRC made it official. Well, nearly official, I should say. At that time, every explorer knew that the reopening would not actually be made truly official until, after 488 days of asking, "Is it more yet?" VidKid offered those definitive words on the MOULa forum. February 8th, 2010. Day 1. It is Uru. And then it was. There was much excitement, and I have just been reminded that when we all flooded in, so many of us tried to flood into the cavern that we crashed the servers on the surface. In the cavern, and, well, probably in all of the ages as well. And, while there was much excitement throughout the cavern community, we learned that it was partially up to us to help keep the cavern open. We understood our donations would help keep it open. Our donations still help keep it open. So please visit the Mist Online forums at www.mistonline.com and click on the Donations tab. Any amount will keep our home open to us for another week, another month, another year. And here we are, nearly 10 years later. In fact, next year at this time, it will be our 10-year anniversary of celebrating the reopening of our beloved cavern. I hope to see all of you then, and I hope to help make it a huge celebration. For now, well, almost every year we have celebrated this anniversary, and this year is no different. Thank you all for listening to this little bit of history. I invite you all now to stand with me and dance with me, have some snacks, some baked treats, and some tea, or maybe your favorite brew. It has been a pleasure and an honor to open this ceremony for you and with you. And now, we dance.
الله في مولاي العفو العفو رجال الله العفو قاتل لالا فاطمة العفو العفو رجال الله العفو قاتل لالا فاطمة العفو العفو يا مولانا العفو قاتل لالا فاطمة العفو العفو يا مولاي العفو الله ربي مولاي العفو الله ربي مولاي رقادي لالا فاطمة العفو العفو يا سادتي العفو الله ربي مولاي العفو العفو يا مولانا العفو رجال الله العفو العفو يا مولاي العفو هاتي لالا فاطمة العفو العفو يا مولاي العفو أنا الذي خلقنا العفو العفو يا مولاي العفو قادي لالا فاطمة العفو العفو يا مولاي العفو 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 العفو
And more dancing is on the way before David starts his music in the Hall of Kings. And I would just like to thank Minnesunda for all of her hard work in organizing this, and to all the organizers. This has been a wonderful event, and it continues throughout the weekend.